Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Lucas.
and we are two aspiring filmmakers making unnecessary commentary on famous movies.
Each week, we will randomly select a film to analyze, discuss, and review.
We will select the film at the end of each podcast, so you will have ample time to watch the movie before the next episode.
We are slightly qualified film students. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Yes, sir. This week we are reviewing Sing Street, the 2016 film, released in Ireland. Pretty low budget film. Yeah, it's about a young man starting a band with some friends at a high school. It's just a very low key little kind of rom-com high school flick.
This is the lowest budget film we've done so far, with a $4 million budget. It's directed by John Carney, who he likes to do his music films about music. He's done the movies Once and Begin Again, which are both really good films. 2016 was a great year for film. And Sing Street, pretty good, nice, just feel-good movie.
Yeah, I think it has kind of flown under the radar for me. I don't necessarily watch this kind of film very often, but, I'm pretty happy that I did. It brought some much-needed lightheartedness to this podcast after some weird/intense films that we've been reviewing recently. And I think that this is a pretty unique film in our review list so far. It's not very like anything else we've done. Especially that it's, all teenage actors, which can be sketchy, but I think they were pretty good actually in this as an ensemble.
Yeah, it was a good ensemble vibe, the whole movie.
Yeah. And it does have a lower budget, and I think that honestly teenage actors help out with that because they're not demanding huge salaries. I think honestly most of the budget for this film probably went towards the music. And also
this film has
the
awesome soundtrack.
Legendary soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it relies very heavily on its the story and the screenplay versus technical aspects to make it entertaining, and as is normal for this kind of film. And so it doesn't really need a big budget, and I think they pulled it off pretty good with what they had. It definitely had a pretty professional vibe to it,
So I'm gonna read a quick plot summary, which I got off Google. So this is the plot summary. With the recession hitting people hard in Dublin during the 80s, Connor is moved from his private school to a tough inner-city alternative. As he tries to adjust to a new way of life, he decides to start his own band. That is the plot summary. And that's a pretty decent...
That's pretty good. I think one thing it leaves out is that the reason he starts the band is to get a girl.
Yes.
This is more of a love story than... I mean, it is also his struggles with the recession, but I'd say most of the focus is on the love story.
I would say most of the focus is on the family dynamic. I think this film is more about the brothers than anything.
That is true, but I think in terms of screen time, the band / Rafina gets most of the screen time, which I actually didn't like. I thought they should have spent even more time with Brendan and Connor. I appreciate the the vibe of this film and the struggles that these people had, and I think it's really cool that some Irish films are getting recognized out here. It's not a very big country in terms of film, so it's cool to see the story of what life is like over there. And in the 80s there actually was recession, and so it's nice to be able to express your country in film, and I think that's important. So
yeah. So what was your standout scene?
All right, standout scene. I'm gonna go with when they are performing. Sing Street, Connor's band, is performing at the prom, or the senior dance for the high school, also called Sing Street. I just thought that first of all, the soundtrack is really good, and that song in particular, or the songs they played, were just good. And it's just like kind of the climax of the film, and I liked that it paid off, and they had fun, and it was just a fun scene to watch. It was cool. I don't really think that this film has very many high energy scenes like that. It's low key for a lot of it, and then this is a very energetic scene, and it's just a good concert. Looks fun. It looks like fun, and it's fun to watch. So I would say that was probably the most interesting part, or not interesting, but just entertaining and fun, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I love the songs in that scene, especially the last two. The ballad they sing is really nice, and then that final like show-stopping song where they're kind of just like
making
poking fun at their principal. I really like that. My standout. Well, okay, I think my actual standout scene of this film is the ending, but I'll talk about the ending during the ending portion. My actual standout, so the standout scene I chose, it's, okay, I'm going to talk about this one. It's when they play, I think the song was called Up. It's in the middle of the film somewhere. It's kind of their rock ballad-esque. It's a really nice song. But when they're writing it and then they start playing it, and it's kind of cut with the first time we see Rafina as like who she is. So she's kind of just sitting in her room taking off her makeup, and she's crying as she's listening to the song. And this is our first like introduction to really who her character is. We start to see through the lenses, and as this scene progresses and the scene afterwards, we start to understand her character a lot more. And I find her character really interesting in this film. Just like her overall, everything about it and how it was written. And the fact that, yes, this is a PG-13 movie, but they tackle some, or imply at least, some really heavy, dark topics, especially surrounding her character.
Yes.
So, I really like that scene. I thought it was edited really well, and I mean, the song just makes that scene a lot more emotional. That was my standout scene.
Fair enough. With that being said, I think after a quick break, we can hop right into this review.
And we're back, and we are
back
heading into our review.
Yep, starting off with story and originality, which is at a 10%. I think in terms of the overall story, it's fairly simplistic. There is a lot going on in the relationships between the characters, but overall, I don't think it really introduced much to the teen romance, genre. That hasn't really been done before. Obviously the setting is a bit unique, as well as the band. But I just think it's not very groundbreaking or very a very intricate story. It's fairly simple, which works in its favor for some things. But I don't know. I just think that it's a story about this boy's family and about him trying to get a girl, and kind of about his dynamics with other characters, and I don't know. Overall, the story just didn't really wow me. Not to say that it's bad in any right. I just don't think it's as unique and creative as some of the other films we've been watching recently. I think it just kind of, holds its own in its genre and in its lane, but it doesn't really do too much to make it that special for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this film isn't extremely original. I mean, we've seen a lot of films kind of mix that coming of age and band story.
Yeah.
But I think that this film, what it does well, and you're saying that, yeah, I get that it's a fairly simplistic teenage romance story, but I don't even know if it's really a teenage romance story, because I feel like this film is more about a kid just having a crush on an older girl. And it's like, they never really date. They never really actually become boyfriend and girlfriend. It's more like just this like weird tension, awkwardness throughout the entire film. And I kind of like that, because most feel-good teen romance films you see nowadays are very, very, like, predictably cliche, so unrealistic.
That is true. I give it points for not being cliche here.
Yeah. Every single Netflix teenage movie that's come out in the past 3 years is, like, the most unrealistic, casting people in their mid-20s. Everyone falls in love with everyone. And this film...
You do have to think about how at the end of the film he does in fact get the girl and they run off into the sunset together. So it's...
But does he get her? Does he get her, or is she just using him to get to England?
I mean, I guess it's up for debate, but I didn't even really think about that, but that's not really... I guess I'll talk more about the ending in the ending.
But what I did like about this is that there was so much awkwardness, and that's what I loved about it, because it felt real. It felt like an actual, it felt like high school. It didn't feel like those other films. And
I mean, not like high school here in Canada, but maybe high school in the 80s.
But don't you relate to the awkwardness of it all?
I relate to the awkwardness, but I don't necessarily relate to the extreme, like, bullying happening there. Like, I don't know. I was just kind of like... I thought it was pretty cliche to just have, the boys' school be, like, very rowdy and just everybody's, like, beating each other up and, doing stereotypical boys stuff. I was like, that's kind of stupid, but I do relate to the awkwardness. I do relate to the awkwardness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as the story progresses, the thing that I think is really rooting this film, and the driving force of this film, is the relationship between the brothers, and I think that is what separates this film from other band movies we've seen in the past, is that it's all coming from this family dynamic, and I really like that. And at the end of the film it says for brothers everywhere, so it's kind of, you understand that that's kind of the main point the director is trying to discuss in this film. And yes, everything else is happening in his life, but it's about him looking up to his brother, and it's about his brother trying to just help his younger brother through all the challenges of life. And I like that. No, I don't think this film is widely original, and yes, it's a little it's pretty predictable. But I do think that it brings aspects to this kind of film that's new and a bit more just smart than most other films out there.
Yeah. And even if it is simplistic and not the most original, it doesn't mean that it's bad at all. I actually think you know, I think it's a decently solid story. Yeah, it was a bit predictable, but I thought it was a good step above this kind of the median of this genre. So yeah, with that being said, I gave it a 7%, a light 7, I would say, in story and originality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so did I. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. And I think that might be the lowest score I've given a film yet. And I think it's, it's fitting. It's it's pretty simple and just kind of, it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I also gave Atonement 7 out of 10 for story and originality.
Right. Yeah, I forget what I gave Atonement. All right, let's move on to beginning, which is out of 5%. I thought that the beginning of this film was fairly boring, but I really liked the introduction, like the very first 20 seconds or so of him improvising a song with the lyrics being his parents' fight. I thought that was pretty cool and definitely creative and gives you a lot of information right off the bat. But then after that, I like the setup that, is Connor moving schools and his family is, on hard times. But I don't know, I just thought it was pretty boring / predictable. I just thought the opening 10 minutes in general were pretty forgettable and, just kind of a setup for the rest of the film, which, is a good thing to have, but it's not, starting out with a bang that's capturing you right away. It's just kind of setting up the rest of the film, which I thought it was pretty boring.
Yeah, I didn't find it boring. I actually think that the beginning is really quick paced. Like, a lot happens in the first 10 minutes. But it's just the setup, honestly. There isn't a lot that's going on. You just kind of getting to know this character, and you're just kind of understanding where we are in the world, what's happening, what's going on with his family. It's very much a lot of setup, but I do like that opening 20 seconds. And I like that breakfast conversation with the family. I think that really sets up the whole family dynamic, and all of them act off really well with each other. It feels like a actual family table conversation. But yeah, it is pretty much just set up. Similar to Atonement, we were talking about how the beginning doesn't really offer too much. It's just, mostly set up, and then it starts picking up as the movie goes along. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't think there's much to say about the beginning since it's just a setup. So yeah, I'm giving it a 3%, right in the middle. Nothing bad about it per se, but yeah, it's just pretty average.
Yep, same. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think that it's pretty good for setup, but once again, it's just setup. Nothing great. So let's move on to ending.
Ending, also out of 5%. Yeah,
I gotta say, I love this ending.
Really? I mean, okay,
yeah.
I think that the ending was going super strong with the performance, and then, him and his brother making up. But I don't know, like, their runaway move to England just took me, like, by surprise. I mean, it up until this point, Connor had no real intention of going to England, other than to possibly get a record deal. But, I mean, the whole time it feels like they're taking this band not, like, serious enough to, make it in the music industry. They're just kind of doing it for fun because, they're high school kids. And so just seeing him run away from his home to, like, go to another country while he's 15, I don't know. It just was a shock to me that is how it ended, and I don't know. I just kind of thought it was a bit ridiculous. But I really liked the brothers' dynamic of, Brendan seeing Connor, and he's cheering from the car. I love that part. I don't know. I thought it was a bit of a crazy way to end this film.
This ending is actually set up throughout the movie. He has a conversation with his other friend who's in the band, and they talk about him going to England, and he tells him that he should do it, and he says, what about the band? And he says, it's just that, like, he basically says to him, the band means nothing, like, go do this. And I mean, I think it makes sense. His family life is a disaster, and
this is true.
He's basically head over heels for this girl. So yeah, maybe it's not the smartest decision, but I see it. I understand why this happens. And also, it's the fact that they just took the boat there, and it's not really indefinite. It's not like they're moving across the world. It's just kind of
just
this, like,
took a boat with nothing except
moment.
Demo tapes and model shoots to North England. Also, like, they gotta hitchhike to London or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a spur of the moment kind of thing. But
yeah.
I'm gonna say that I think that as far as endings go for this movie, I think this is pretty much as good of an ending this film could have done. And that's because I love how poetic the ending is. And people know by now that I like ambiguous endings, and I think this film is the perfect amount of ambiguous. It's kind of that medium ground between Parasite and Enemy. We got Parasite, which is absolutely not ambiguous at all, and we have Enemy that might be too ambiguous. And I feel like this film lands in that perfect middle ground where we're ending the story nicely, but there's also a lot more to be wanted, and I like that. But the biggest thing I like about this ending is the poetic and metaphorical concept of the brotherhood, and
same.
The whole idea of him taking the little boat and following the big ferry, and that's all a metaphor for his whole life. He's been following his brother's footsteps, his bigger brother, and now he's doing the same in his little boat. He's following this huge ferry. And there's a line that Brendan, his brother, says to him when he's really angry and he's in his room. He has this really intense monologue he says to him, and he says the line, "You just moved in my jet stream." He says that, and that's right out. The ending. He's literally moving in the jet stream of this bigger ferry. Going to England. So it's a really I think it's a really well-crafted ending, and it's emotional, it's feel-good, it's bittersweet, and I don't know, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I do really like the brotherhood vibe, but I just think a better way to end it would have been to have that same, I don't know, if I don't have an exact way I would have rather it have ended. I don't know. I thought I was, that the intensity of the film was one place, and then all of a sudden they're on this dangerous boat ride across the ocean. I was like, I don't know. It took me by surprise. I don't know. I guess the vibes I was getting from him talking about going to England was more of a hypothetical. I didn't actually think he was going to take a little boat to England, but...
Yeah, well, I've also seen some analysis where people have said that didn't actually happen, and that was just kind of his imagination. Dream.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's a lot
I think any sensible 15-year-old after the waves get big and it's become a torrential downpour would probably turn around, but... So I can maybe see that. I don't know. The real thing that's keeping this ending going for me is the brother dynamic. It's also just, it's bittersweet that the older brother, wishes that he had done that when he was 15. I liked that a lot. I don't know. I thought the ending was just a bit too crazy for me.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I really like this ending. I think it's solid. And yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5.
I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. You know, I don't know. I guess I just wasn't. I just wasn't as into it. But yeah, let's move on to screenplay slash dialogue, which is at 8%. And this is really the, I guess, focus of the film. You know, they're not wowing people with the technical aspects. You know, the screenplay and the dialogue is really what makes this film itself, and kind of the focus. And overall, I thought it was pretty solid. I love the dialogue in this film. You know,
Me too.
Irish accents are pretty funny, so I was really listening to what people were saying. And I like, especially, I think my favorite scenes are just the band talking about various subjects. I just love the dynamic they have, and I think the dialogue is great. The exception being the Irish slang. It kind of sounds like how teenagers would talk to each other. And I think they really kind of nailed it. And I don't know. I thought that they did a great job of kind of developing the main characters through the dialogue. There wasn't very much development at all for any of the side characters, which, you know, it's. I think, you know, that kind of segues me into the thing I didn't really like about the screenplay, which is there's a lot of characters present in this film, and I think that the main relationships I was invested in were Brendan and Connor's and Connor and Afina's, because, you know, those are the two main relationships. But there is a lot of time spent with Connor and the bandmates who don't really get any character development. They're just kind of in the band. And even the way they join the band is literally like they're just asked to be in the band and then they're in the band. Or they see a poster and then they're just in the band. And while their dialogue is good, you don't really get to know any of them. And I feel like almost half of this film is Connor interacting with characters that don't really have much development. I really, really liked the vibe and aesthetic and dynamic that him and his brother Brendan had, but I just wish they would have spent more time with him and Brendan. I also really loved the scenes where they would listen to music together, and in terms of actual story progression, I thought that was the most, you know, important / interesting scenes. Those were the most important / interesting scenes. So I just wish they would have spent more time with those and less time with the band's relationship, you know, with how the story played out, because the story is less about the band and more about the relationship. I guess that's like my negative, but overall, like I was saying, even though I wish they spent less time with it, the scenes with the band are really well written and funny and entertaining. So I guess it's not necessarily that bad of a thing that they spent time on that. I actually think it's a pretty good thing, because those were much more entertaining and upbeat scenes than when he's with his brother. But I don't know, I just thought the character progression could have been a little stronger in the areas it needed to be in.
I think the dialogue is really good in this movie. I like how, especially during like the band scenes, they kind of all talk over each other. So it feels like a very real kind of just a bunch of guys hanging out. I also like that this band that they've created is really just kind of like a hobby. It has nothing to do with like them wanting to be big or famous or anything. It's kind of just like they're just having fun, and that's kind of the point of it. And that's why when I think that the people just join, they really are just joining because they're just asking people who like to play music, and they just like, yeah, it's fun. So, I mean, that kind of works, I think. I like that. I like that also that they've created all these songs for them, and yet they don't sound like uber polished. They still kind of just seem like songs that teenagers could make. They're not revolutionary.
I mean, it sounds a
by
bit
any
better
means.
than the average 15-year-old.
Yeah, no, they're good, but it's not like most band films where all of a sudden they're making music that sounds like
Yeah,
just
and I also
good.
like that the band doesn't get big, because most band films, they all of a sudden are stars, or like that's the focus. But I like that they have one show together, and just make a few songs to have fun. I like that.
Yeah. I do get what you're saying by some of the characters don't have development, but I feel like we're focusing on developing our more main characters, and the rest are more there just to help them out. Like, we get a lot of character development with Brendan. We get to know his character a lot. I really like Rafina's character. I think there's so much intricate emotional levels to her character. I mean, just from the start of the film, how insecure she is, but she doesn't really show it. How, she has this, she thinks or maybe it's a delusion, or she's optimistic, but she thinks she's going to go to London with her boyfriend, and she's constantly saying this and repeating herself and saying it over and over again, and it's kind of to this point that she's kind of just repeating it, trying to make herself believe that it's true. And then there's just the fact that we get really dark into her character, and we get like, it's implied that she might have been, sexually abused by her father. There's also implications that her boyfriend hit her. But we get into a lot of stuff that usually PG-13 movies aren't going to really dive into. So I like that. I like that they're kind of playing with that boundary. Because yes, it's a PG-13 movie, but if you really listen to the dialogue and really like get into it, there's some dark themes overshadowing this movie. And I like that, and that's a huge part of screenplay. I just like the family relationship, the family dynamic. I actually really like the father and mother and kind of how they play into it. Aidan Gillen, great actor. I think this is a pretty solid screenplay and dialogue, and it's just a fun movie. It's just a fun movie.
Yeah. And I guess what I was more trying to say is just the fact that they split the focus very evenly between the band and Rafina and Brendan. I like that. I like the dynamic it gives for our main character. I just think that, I don't know. I guess if the film was going to go more in the direction of Connor and Brendan, I feel like they just could have spent a little teensy bit more time with the brothers. But also, I just think that, especially at the start, we're really only getting scenes with Connor and Brendan a bit later into the film, like Act 2-ish, because this starts them forming the band. I just think that I don't know. I agree with you. The screenplay and dialogue is pretty solid in this film, especially the dialogue, I think. And the pacing is pretty well done.
I think the pacing is really good in this movie. This film like keeps it up pretty well. I think that a big thing is when you look at films like Sing Street, I'm trying not to take it too seriously, because it is just like, it's meant to just be kind of a fun feel-good movie. So I'm not looking at it with the same lens I would look at like Children of Men or something. Because like if I'm comparing each topic to Children of Men, everything would be in like the low, like very low numbers. So I'm trying to kind of just look at it as like what it is. I gave screenplay and dialogue a 7 out of 8 because I thought it was pretty solid. There's a few issues, but I thought it was pretty good.
I gave it a 6 out of 8, 6%. So far, we're pretty close together. Now let's move on to soundtrack. This is actually a pretty unique soundtrack so far, as would be expected with a band film. There's no score. It's all songs. Like I said, the budget for music must have been pretty good, because they're using songs from actual popular bands in the 80s mixed in with their band. And I just really like how the songs they wrote for this fictional band, it's like they're actually really detailed in the way that they wrote them. With you can like hear the influence that the music Brendan is showing Connor in their songs, even though they're not actual. They're not an actual band, but I love that they, for a band film, you got to take time with the music that you're making, that you're having your fictional band create, and they did with this film, obviously, but I think they did it really, really well. And I think, the way we've kind of been looking at the soundtrack is, would we listen to it outside the film? And well, I guess it's not exactly my favorite genre. I would say, there are songs that I would listen to, even without the film. And I don't know how much there is to say.
Well,
it's amazing.
The thing I like about this soundtrack is that, you were talking about how you can really tell the influence, like when he's first listening to Duran Duran, and then you get like that, The Riddle of the Model, his first kind of written song, and you definitely get those Duran Duran feels. We have The Cure, lots of Cure, and they do that beautiful Sea song, and he's got the like hairdo and everything, and it works really well. And I think that this is kind of, you can't really dock marks for the soundtrack. It's a pretty perfect soundtrack. Every song is solid. I have listened to the soundtrack a many of times because it's just a good playlist. You got some really good alt rock songs on here. And the original songs are really good, like really good. Up, To Find You, those ballad songs, I really like their last song, Brown Shoes. They're just jams. They're just super exciting, super fun to listen to, and they just feel like songs a teenager could write, lyrically wise.
Yes.
I think that this soundtrack is fantastic, actually, and because I've listened to it many times, but guess what? I haven't just listened to it once. I've listened to it a lot of times. Therefore, I'm going to give it an extra point. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 7. An 8 out of 7 for soundtrack.
I respect that. I'm giving it a normal 7 out of 7%. Yeah, I mean, the only songs I would actually listen to / put on my playlist would be the Cure songs. I actually don't really like Duran Duran at all.
No.
And I don't know. Like, the songs are good, but I don't know. It's not really my type of thing. But yeah, it is amazing for what it is, and I respect it, even if I'm not an actual fan of the music. Yeah, that honestly, with the band film, it's to be expected that they get a very high scoring soundtrack. If they get a low scoring soundtrack for a band film, it probably sucks. So yeah. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the second half of our review.
Okay, coming back at you, hopping right in to production design, also costumes and set decoration. And that is our 6%.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I thought the production design was pretty good. It's they didn't really have to do biggest thing much.
Yeah, no, there isn't a lot of production design, but I gotta say the costumes in this film,
the costumes
are pretty good. They're pretty fantastic. Like, especially funny. that scene where he has that kind of dream sequence where he's filming the Back to the Future themed music video. And they're all in their red suits, and everyone's in these like very flamboyant colored dresses and suits. It's awesome. Like, the costumes are fantastic.
That was one of my favorite scenes.
And even just throughout the film, especially watching Connor and how his clothing, hairdo, makeup, all of it just adapts throughout the film depending on what kind of band he's being influenced by in that moment in time is really cool. And you have to give it a lot of props for that, because they kind of nailed that portion.
Yeah. And I really like the school, although that's a location, but, I like the way they dressed it up. Looked, pretty average. And I also, some set design I really liked was the brother's room with his mass collection of vinyl, record player, and, his nice listening chair. And, Connor's bedroom. I just thought the production design was pretty solid, enough to give it a little extra from what would be average. I gave it a 4% out of 6.
Yep, me too. I gave it 4 out of 6. I originally had it as a 5 because I thought the costumes were so good, but then I was like, I brought it down a little bit. It's a high 4 for me, though. High 4.
Yeah, it's pretty solid, but, there's not much, which is kind of to be expected off a lower budget film. Let's move on to location selection, which is also at a 6%. I thought the location selection was okay. Like I said, the school is good, but, you can tell that they just thought that the beach, where the boat is, the island is, they like their ocean shots. They kind of reused those locations multiple times. Albeit they look nice, but they reused the same location a few times, and I thought that their rehearsal space was good, and overall it was just pretty average location selection. None of the locations really wowed me that much.
Yeah, I liked the location selection in this film. It felt very like they're just kind of showcasing Dublin in a nice way, Yeah. And I liked all the streets, like especially the nighttime shots, like when they're riding home on his bike and they're riding through the streets with the like strong street lights on them, and you have those really narrow streets that they're riding down. I really like that, and it looks really nice. I actually really like the island selection too that they go and have that picnic on, because they shot it in a way that you get that nice grassy leafy bokeh, and you also get the ocean in the background that's kind of sparkling.
That leafy bokeh.
Yeah. You get the ocean that's kind of sparkling, and then just in the background you can see the coast of Dublin. And it's a pretty cool selection, because there's a lot of islands around there. So I feel like that was a good choice, and it really showcased like every aspect, every layer of that location. And I thought that like kind of the houses, like where people live, that's kind of very intricate, because you're looking at like who these characters are and kind of what houses they would live in. So if you look at the bully, Barry, I think his name was, like he lives in this little like very dingy kind of looking apartment-esque, and I kind of liked how they kind of showcased all the different areas of Dublin and where they live and how it worked. And I really liked the school also. I thought that the school worked really well, and also the gymnasium where they have the final concert. That was a really good location selection, because they were able to match the lighting for the cinematography, because they have the like bright orange lights over top of the gym floors, which are clearly already there, and then they must have put in blue spotlights on the stage, so that contrast between the orange gym lights and that reflecting off the polished gym floor with the blue concert lights is like perfect, because orange and blue they go together
Hollywood
really well. So
it's Hollywood for you.
I really like that. That was a good gym choice. And I mean, they just filmed in Dublin, and it's meant to just feel like you're just kind of walking around the streets. It's not meant to be like, really beautiful. I don't think it's perfect, but I thought it was pretty good location selection.
I gave it 4% out of 6.
Yeah, I liked it a little bit more. I gave it a 5 out of 6.
There you go. I thought it was pretty solid. There also just wasn't that many locations at the end of the day. Let's move on to cinematography, which is at a 10%. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought the cinematography was pretty solid in this film.
Yeah, I mean it's nothing brilliant by any means, but especially for this kind of genre of film, it's pretty good compared to a lot
It's
of
pretty
other
good.
movies out there. I really like the handheld look that they use
Yeah,
throughout the movie. I
yeah,
think that's a really good choice because it's not something you get out of a lot of feel good movies. Usually, it's very static shots, just like
true.
really. But this film felt a bit more raw and a bit more, just kind of had that little grit to it, which was nice.
Yeah, I guess I thought the framing at times was a little bit wide and wasn't quite as dramatic for some of the more dramatic moments. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot of, most of the time characters were framed kind of waist up or even a bit wider, like kind of like a cowboy shot, almost like knees up.
Mm-hmm.
They're mostly, I think, because there's a lot of moving shots and they're just kind of doing long-ish takes with moving the camera as well, like tracking shots. But yeah,
Yeah.
I thought the framing was just a little bit wider than I thought it should have been. I thought if they got a little closer, then it would have made it more personal and dramatic. But maybe that's not the vibe they were going for. I don't really know, but yeah, it's not anything major. I just kind of thought the framing was a bit off at times, and yeah, I don't really think there's much special about the cinematography. There wasn't really anything wrong with it per se, but I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of average.
Yeah. I like that they used some like longer takes, especially the fact that this film is the majority of this film is teenagers, so we're getting a lot of teen actors. And yet they do a lot of shots, especially with the bands, where they kind of just have the camera in a wide shot and they just let them play off of each other, which is
Yeah,
something that films do when you have strong actors, and that really says something here because technically most of the time when you have teen actors they try and cheat it a bit and they kind of use a lot of cuts so that they can really fine-tune each line of dialogue in that performance, and by
yeah,
doing it in these wide shots and letting them just play off each other and it actually being pretty decent performances, that's really saying something about the acting. And it's also a more stylized use of cinematography because you're seeing these more long wide shots which wouldn't be used much in films like this for the most part. I already talked about the green bokeh we get a lot of.
hell yeah.
The final gig of the school, I think, is the
I thought the
best
concert shot,
sequence.
yeah, they
Yeah.
were shot pretty nice, especially
Yeah.
just the lighting in
Once
that
again, that
scene.
the blue and orange light work perfectly together.
Hmm.
And I really like just, especially when he's singing the slow song, and you kind of have this dark gym floor that everyone's kind of depleted off of, and there's just a couple people dancing, and you get these close-ups of his face and the back shot where he's like lit. It's pretty nice.
Yeah,
And when he's biking with Rafina, taking her home, and they're just kind of biking down that tiny roadway with the street lights. I really like that. It's not super technical, but it just looks really nice, and it just kind of it's pretty good. I didn't think
yeah.
cinematography was fantastic by any means, but it's pretty good for what it is. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Same here, 7% out of 10. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to editing, which is at 8%. I thought the editing was pretty strong in this film. I think what
Mm-hmm.
I liked especially were the transitions between scenes. They most of the time they used like music to transition between the scenes. So, for instance, like
Right.
you were saying earlier, you have them writing the song and then it transitions to the band actually playing it.
Yeah.
Or you have the transitions of his Back to the Future dream sequence, how it, that scene
Yeah.
transitions, seamlessly with his actual video shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just thought that most of the transitions between scenes were pretty creative and, some at times funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought the editing was pretty strong. there's no crazy VFX or anything, or even that much of a stylized color grade here.
But yeah, but also with editing, it's also the sound, and this film relies heavily on sound, especially with their own original songs.
And the sound design is good.
This editing is really strong, and I think it's actually it's one of the more technical films that we've done. Well, we've done a lot of films that are very like simplistic in editing, and this film actually kind of used like very like especially with the original songs and stuff, they actually had to do some stuff with editing, whereas you look at like The Place Beyond the Pines, or I don't know, even Inglourious Bastards, like there's just like it's pretty like just cutting scene to scene, and this film actually had to do some really like cool stuff with editing. It's not like brilliant by any means, but it is like it's pretty notable, and it works pretty well off everything throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and I guess I think there's less to say with editing in this category, just because a lot of the films we've done so far are very character driven, and if we reviewed a film like an action film, or like even like Blade Runner 2049, with heavy VFX, something like that, the editing is gonna have a lot more to talk about. But in these cases, especially with this film, there's not even a very standout color grade compared to something like Enemy, where they actually had to do a lot with the color grading. Here it's just it's very simple, but it's done very, very, very well. I think the best editing like the color grade when you don't even notice it, and it's definitely
that's true.
Done well.
The color grade they used for the Back to the Future scene though was really cool, because it was
that's true.
It was this like very really warm, but it was like a reddish. It was kind of like a red-green color grade, which is a weird color grade that you don't see very often.
I like that color grade a lot.
And it worked. Yeah,
that's like some Royal Tenenbaum stuff right there.
Yeah,
or even Bottle Rocket kind of has that going on.
Mm-hmm.
Got my Wes Anderson
I gave editing
trivia ready to spew it whenever I see an opportunity. Can't wait till we do a Wes Anderson
editing
film.
I give editing a 7 out of 8. I get that sounds pretty high for a movie like Sing Street, but once again, I'm looking at it as just the kind of movie it is, and it's pretty, on a technical level, pretty well edited. So, give it a 7 out of 8.
Yeah. I gave it a 6% out of 8. Let's move on to acting.
Nice.
It's out of 10%.
Cool.
Child actors. Yeah, as, was pointed out last week, not a fan. But I thought they were pretty good in this film. I'd say the
and they're not like super young; they're like 16ish.
Yeah, they're not child actors per se. And actually, I think the standout performances for me were the actress who played Rafina. I thought she gave a pretty solid performance, and the main character, the main actor, who is Ferdia Welsh Pilo, I thought he gave a pretty good performance. I think, there's some growth he could have with his career, but, for being a young actor, I thought he was pretty good.
I liked his quirkiness when he kind of performed too, like whenever he was doing music videos performing live. Like he had this like weird, like he
David
was kind
Bowie-ish.
of taking off. It made him look like a performer, but it was like still awkward, but also like it was kind of.
It was very feminine.
Yeah. It like had major like The Cure vibes to his performance.
True.
Which I like because I love The Cure. For me, the standout performance is Jack Rayner, who played Brendan. I loved his performance.
Sure. I was gonna get to that. I was gonna say my favorite performance.
Yes.
But, I mean, I also actually really liked him in Midsummer. I don't know if you saw that, but
Haven't seen that yet.
he's
Want to
in
get around to
he's
that.
in that as well, and he's actually
Yeah.
really good in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, this was kind of his introduction to film. Actually, that's not true. He was in Transformers: Age of Extinction before this, which I did not see. But this was his first kind of chance at the spotlight, and yeah, I'm pretty excited to see if he's in anything else. Obviously, he was in Midsummer, but I thought he was really good in this. He had a
Yeah.
his monologue was performed very, very well.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic monologue, and the ending when he's like tearing up in the car, and when he like cheers out for joy, it feels like very
Yeah,
like
I like that.
it's just nice, good performance.
It's just nice.
Yeah,
He's just a good
And-
big brother. Like, I would love to have him as a brother.
yeah. And
Music
his
lover.
character is so interesting because it's like it's not exactly a character you would want someone to look up to, but at the same time it is. And
But it is, yeah.
I kind of love that.
And also,
Yeah.
his backstory is revealed to us, but not the whole thing. It's like
Yeah.
that he dropped out of college, but you don't really know like why or what his life plan is, or if he's literally just gonna sit at home and listen to music all day. Which I kind of like, is like a little mysterious big brother character, which it just feels great. And some of that's the screenplay, but I thought his performance was really, really solid.
Yeah.
Really the only weak performances, like weak performances, I thought were the bully character. I thought his performance was maybe it was just his
That was
character
fine.
being this weird like bully who seems like he's going to be super prevalent in the start and then just like kind of isn't, and then all of a sudden is friends with them at the end. He's only in like 4 or 5 scenes, but his performance was okay. I don't know. I just thought the band members had they're small roles, but I thought their performances were meh. They were okay, and the guitar player was good though. Connor's
he's
kind of friend,
Yeah.
his better friend was good, but yeah, I thought the manager kid was kind of annoying.
He was the weakest. I think he was also the youngest.
I thought most of the performances were pretty average, with Jack Rayner's performance being standout.
Yeah.
I mean,
I actually I thought that Lucy Boynton, who played Rafina, also is like standout. Like she had a lot of like very emotional scenes by herself too, which is hard to do.
That's true.
And I thought she kind of nailed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is the thing I like about this film. I know you're not a huge fan of child actors, and I get that, but I do like that this film is about high school students, and they actually cast people who are actually the age. Like, you don't see that very often, where they cast people who are actually like 16.
I mean, even in The Place Beyond the Pines, you can tell that the high school actors are probably in their early 20s.
Yeah. Well, like every single show about high school, the actors are in their like mid to late 20s. And fine, whatever. It's going to get more views and people are going to, whatever. But I like that it feels more real because they're actually casting people who are like 15 to 17. That's kind of the age range that most of them were. Lucy Boynton was a little bit older, but I think that also worked.
I really did not buy that she was 16. Or that
she was like
was 15.
She was in her early 20s. But the rest of them were pretty young. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I thought the acting was pretty solid. But, most of the performances I thought were either just okay or pretty good. There wasn't necessarily any awful acting by any means. So, yeah, I gave it a 8%. I thought it was overall pretty good.
Yep, me too. Give it an 8 out of 10. Nice.
There you go.
Let's move on to entertainment value.
At a 10%. I was fairly entertained. Although I would say I was the least entertained of any film so far.
Really?
Yeah.
This
I
is
thought
like,
it was.
I think, the most entertaining film we've watched so far. Like, entertainment. Like, this is the fastest paced film we've watched. And it's actually,
Yes, it
like,
is
fun.
fast paced, but I don't know. I just thought it wasn't very interesting. I guess, like, yes, it's fast paced, but I don't know. I wasn't that invested in the story. Like, yes, obviously, I wanted to see our main character succeed, and I felt good when the good things happened. I was invested, but I don't know. I just kind of thought that because I thought the story was a bit weaker, and there wasn't really anything technically cool happening, and the acting wasn't perfect. I just, it was fairly entertaining. It was pretty good. It was like I would maybe watch it again. Yeah, I thought it was, it was passable, but I don't know, man. Maybe
Okay.
it's just my taste in movies, but I don't know. It just wasn't really the most
So Ben
exciting
is
watch
a-
for me.
Ben has just proven his film geekiness, that he has to have visually impressive
Literally,
things
no,
in
I'm not
order to be
even kidding
entertaining.
at this point though. Like, I've just reached peak film nerd, and like if it's not some experimental, mind blowing stuff, it's just average for me. But no, I like. Yes, it's okay. It's entertaining, but I don't know. I just, like I said, it's just not necessarily my taste. Like, God, it sounds so pretentious, but it's true. I am pretentious. Okay, okay. I'm gonna give my. I'll give a final quote here. All right, it's
Okay.
good for what it is, but the fact that the story is so simple just made me less invested, and therefore I thought it was less overall entertaining. Overall, how do you, I can't even word it. It was good. It was okay.
Yeah.
There you go. It was
Sure.
okay.
Okay. This is my third time watching Sing Street.
Jeez, really?
And yeah, yep. Dude, I think it's a fun movie. This is like the kind of movie I would just put on and just kind of like chill and watch. It's like, yeah, it's not a film you analyze really. It's not a film that's like super
That's so
brilliant
okay,
by
I
any
agree
means.
with this.
But
Yeah.
But this is the kind of film that I would consider entertaining. Like, maybe it's not going to score super high with technical achievement, but entertainment value, this is a film that I would just put on and just kind of watch for fun. And I think it has like some great rewatchability aspects to it. And yeah, it's just like, it's a feel-good fun movie, and therefore I think it's super entertaining. I know lots of people.
I mean, this is just
who,
proving how film geek and pretentious I am, because it's not a movie I would rewatch because of the exact things you're saying. Like,
I know
don't
so many
I just-
people who say this is like their comfort movie. They just like go to this film.
I just
like this isn't
when I think
my
of
comfort
my
movie.
comfort
Is
movie,
La La
I'd
Land.
watch like Hot Rod or Pineapple Express or something. This is like
My comfort
it's
movie
not
is La
funny
La
enough.
Land.
It's not funny enough for me to want to sit down and laugh at it. It's just kind of that weird genre where I don't know. I couldn't really sit down and just watch it if I had other films I would want to watch. Like, the films I've watched the most probably are like The Big Lebowski. I've probably seen that film like 10 times. Or
Yeah.
just something like that. Where I my go-to like quote unquote comfort movies are more comedies or Wes Anderson movies, but I don't know. I don't really see myself rewatching this. Yeah.
Yeah. These are my go-to. Like, for comfort movies for me, I like the kind of just dramedy, feel-good movies.
Yeah.
Which this kind of falls under. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's paced really well too. It's like, it's quick
That's
paced.
true. I'll give it that.
Things
I'll
are
give it
constantly
that.
happening. So there's never like moments where I'm just kind of bored. Like I'm still like enjoying the film throughout. Like every film we've done so far, this is the first movie that, even though it was my third time watching it, there was not a point where I was bored. Where every other movie we have done so far, there was at least one point where I was like, okay, come on, move along, move along. This was like, this is just like a fun film, in my opinion. I gave
guess,
it a 9
yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
10.
Yeah, I gave it a 7% out of 10, which I actually thought was a bit generous considering I don't think I'll watch this again. Um, but I guess compare like a lot of the films we've been doing recently, Lucas put on the wheel and I haven't seen them. So like I get how you could be bored, like I don't know, rewatching Enemy, but for me, like first time watching a movie like Enemy or Children of Men, I thought it was infinitely more entertaining than than this. But yeah, I guess this is this review just probably contrasted Lucas and I's taste the most right there. But
It's that I can enjoy different types of movies for what they are.
Okay.
They need to be that, like, very artsy films.
Like, it doesn't even need to be that for me.
This is the man that will say that Citizen Kane is the greatest movie ever.
No, I haven't seen Citizen Kane actually. Or like Gone with the Wind.
Oh, well,
I don't know how you could sit down and watch a 3.5 hour movie from the 40s. Like, okay, this is discrediting me as a film student. I don't know. Yeah, let's just move on before I seem like a bad person.
Overall technical achievement
out of 15.
It's solid. It's like there's nothing bad about the technical aspects.
I agree with that. It's solid. If you're looking at the scores I gave the other technical aspects, nothing notably weak, but nothing incredible. I'd say the strongest category is probably editing, but yeah, I just think overall it's very solid. It's very I don't want to use the word average because that kind of sounds like an insult. So yeah, I think it's solid and it did what it needed to do, but it's not necessarily breaking new ground or even that impressive. But I thought it was pretty solid. Anything else to say?
Yeah, no, I think it had moments of like some really nice stuff, and yeah, I think it was edited really well, and soundtrack is amazing. And also we gotta look at the fact that they have original songs and they would have been mixing those songs themselves and stuff, and that's pretty impressive.
That's true.
But I think it's just a solid, like there's nothing that stands out as bad or weak in my opinion. It's just kind of like, it's a pretty decent in my opinion. I gave it a 12 out of 15.
Same here, 12 out of 15. With all that being said, that kind of wraps up the review portion, so let's take a quick break before we give our final scores and spin the wheel for next week.
And we are back, coming in to conclude this review, and then we're going to prep for next week. So, Sing Street 2016, let's hear it. What was your total percentage out of 100?
My total percentage was a 74% for this film.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess in a way, it being this very simple, we've been calling it, comfort movie, might, I think that actually, the score kind of reflects that. Like, I don't think this film should be taken too seriously like some of the other films we've been reviewing. I was kind of harsh on it, but I don't really think that the score necessarily means it's, below anything we've done so far in any means. I just think it's a different kind of film that, like we were saying, you could just put on, and if you're if it's your comfort film, you can watch it. But I think just looking at what we've done so far, I think it deserves the 74. My first film in the 70s. A C.
Cool.
Right?
Cool.
Like a C, C+.
I gave it an overall of an 81%, which is much higher. Actually, it's 1% higher than Enemy.
Ooh.
To be fair, I think I like this movie better than Enemy. I think Enemy is, it's more... Enemy is... I can't really compare the two. It's like, it's too hard to compare the two. But I think,
they're so different.
If I were to be choosing a movie to watch, I would definitely choose Sing Street over Enemy, because, I don't know. I don't find Enemy...
I feel like Enemy, you gotta be prepared to watch Enemy. You gotta be ready to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will give us an average of a 77.5%, which is our lowest so far. All good. And that's our eighth film. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we're on to number 9. And speaking of number 9, let's spin that wheel and see what we get. Maybe we'll get back on my side of the wheel. Because
or maybe we'll get a requested film.
True. Also true.
It's true.
We have we're kind of running out of the requested films here, just looking at the wait list. So, if you want to send in some films to our Instagram, we will put them right at the top of the wait list, and they will be added to the wheel. Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at s_q_f_s. And, send us your suggestions, comments, questions, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
without further
ado,
let's
spin that wheel.
Pull up QuickTime Player. I'm pressing screen record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Pulling out the wheel. And we are spinning in 3, 2, 1. What are we landing on?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, we've landed on Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. Nice. Yeah, I've seen this film once. Starring the late, great Robin Williams. And Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And
pretty classic movie, I gotta say.
It feels weird to review a movie like Good Will Hunting. I don't know. It just feels like such a legendary film in pop culture to be, reviewing it. Let me pull up the plot summary again. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Will Hunting, a genius in mathematics, solves all the difficult mathematical problems. When he faces an emotional crisis, he takes help from psychiatrist Dr. Sean McGuire. Okay, who's trying to pronounce this? Who's trying to help me out here? Dr. Sean McGuire, who helps him recover. You get the gist, all right? The name's not that important. All right. That's the general gist. I believe this film is on Netflix.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
You can go watch it there. Although it didn't win any Oscars, it probably should have.
It won Best Screenplay, didn't it?
Did it?
I'm pretty sure that this was the year Matt Damon, Ben Affleck won for Best Screenplay. It was like their first script.
That's right. Let's wrap things up here. Thank you for listening to our review of Sing Street. And make sure you tune in next week to hear us review Good Will Hunting.
Amazing. See you guys next week. Make sure to check our Instagram, where we will have updated lists. We'll have our updated percentage listings. We'll have our updated 100 movie list. So if you guys ever want to check out which movies are or are not on the wheel, you can check that out. And we will see you all next time. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Make sure to tune in next week for a new film discussion and review.
Our theme song is Slightly Sexy by Thompson Springs.
Make sure to subscribe and leave us a like.
Send us feedback and comments as well as your thoughts on the film. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at S_Q_F_S.
If you would like to send us a question or a comment for next week's episode, you can email us at sqfilmstudents@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.